Welcome back to the channel for our continued adventures through the bowels of Amazon Prime. And this time we've got 1953's Cat Women of the Moon. The crew are on their way to the moon. They're either having a nap or kind of belted down by the G forces. Here's their rocket, which for some reason does change its look in parts of the film. Seems to be a bit of a continuity error. We are slowly introduced to the crew as they get up. Helen, the one woman aboard, immediately does her hair, and that pretty much sets the tone for the gender politics on display. I love this kind of it's a rocket but also somebody's office furniture they've got going on. There's an emergency in Sector 5, so this chap quickly hurries on this very loose fitting hazard suit and goes down to the smoke filled room underneath, which is full of some dials and tubes and things, and he kind of threshes about for a little bit, ponderously moving around. It's not clear whether these guys are anxious about a sort of a counter that's going on, or whether they're just impatient and want this chap to get on with it, to be honest. But job done, Sector 5 controlled, he re-emerges. And of course it's up to Helen to look after him as he recuperates. He's burnt his thumb there. But we're now almost at the moon. To be fair, for 1953 the effects aren't bad, and I believe this was an independent production. We've got a nice array of 50s spacesuits going on, lots of fishbowl helmets, and I do quite like their nifty little lift that gets them in and out of the rocket. Though this is the only time you'll ever see it being used. And it's time to set out and explore the moon. Something attacks them, but it's not clear what, so they just keep exploring. And then we stop for a kind of moment where they play with cigarettes, because it turns out if you throw them on the floor whilst you're on the moon, they just burn, apparently. They find a nice big cave. Helen seems to be leading them into a certain direction, but it's not clear why. Playing with some more cigarettes and things, they realise there's air in the cave, so they bravely play last one to take your helmet off buys the beer, and there's an ominous figure watching them. Now they're in a much more casual gear, they continue exploring, and nobody spots the giant space alien spider till it emerges. Classic 50s here, the girl immediately runs away screaming, whilst all the manly men attack it with knives. But there's another one! I love these spiders, they're great. More ominous, shadowy figures. One of them approaches Helen, but soon disappears when disturbed. And inside the cave they find a city. I mean, this cave is huge, it's just massive. But again, there's some quite nice kind of effects and set design going on here as they wander into this mysterious city. And here we have the Catwoman as they leap out to attack their intruders into their city. When one of them is captured, they display blink away powers, leaving the men frustrated as they introduce themselves to Helen, who they've managed to sort of capture and lure away. And it turns out they've been psychically kind of messaging her and drawing her towards them. and it turns out the Catwomen basically have a plan to take over Earth, and they're going to basically kind of manipulate and control the men folk. The men folk wonder eventually where Helen is and think, oh, should we go look? And that's when she appears with the Catwomen, who've prepared like a lovely meal for everybody. So even when you're an evil Catwoman, you end up having to cook for the men, it seems, in 1953. Get a bit of interpretive dance. The youngest crew member is falling in love with one of the Catwomen. Though I say youngest, he's still clearly sort of in his 30s, because the rest of the crew all appear to be men in their 50s from what I can tell. One of the men is lured away with the promise of riches and gold. And then he is very, very slowly stabbed. This Catwoman starts to confess the plan, and that she doesn't agree with the plan because now that she's fallen in love, it doesn't seem right. However, the rest of them are eager to press on with their schemes. We then have a bit of a confrontation over who gets to kiss Helen. Amusingly, as she runs away when the fight begins, it takes them quite a while to notice that she's gone, and they go after her. Suddenly, everybody's running. Because the Catwomen and Helen are off to try and get onto the rocket and get back to Earth so they can begin the taking over of Earth. The one who is having second thoughts is unceremoniously conked over the head with a rock, and off go the others. And in come our heroes, and I love these really vague pistol shots, because it turns out that those vague pistol shots were enough to kill the rest of the Catwomen off screen, and it's time to go home. Nobody seems to be bothered that Helen was going to help the Catwomen take over Earth, and she seems to just accept that it's just time to go home now that all of her kind of colleagues have been shot. And that's the end. So yeah, 1953's Catwoman of the Moon. It's quite short and it's quite amusing in that kind of window into a world that's long since gone of 1950s Americana. It has influenced quite a few things just because of its shocky kind of premise, really. But yeah, that one actually I think is worth a bit of a watch on Amazon Prime. Do like and subscribe as we continue our journey through these vaults, and I'll catch you again soon.